Okay, and we have started recording.
Okay.
So, did you want to give an intro as to what we're going to try and achieve, or do you want me to jump in?
Sure. Why don't you go ahead and I can add stuff at the end.
Perfect. So we had scheduled in this pairing session to do a whole bunch of different things. There were a few options on the table, something to do with Heroku build packs for Ember, maybe a bit of work on the new guides app that just went live. But Siva brought the idea of taking our first look at setting up the Ember app for the actual Ember.js homepage, Ember.js.com, which is something that we've been in the progress of like setting up all the things necessary to get this, to turn this into an Ember app and to share things like the title bar and the footers and things like that between all of the different sections of the new Emberified infrastructure. But I think you're in our conversation just before starting recording, you were saying things like maybe it's worth kind of getting it started, getting it to a position where people could contribute if they really wanted to. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah. So the way we went about migrating our website, which was on Middleman earlier, was that we wanted to focus on products that were being used very actively. So we picked out API docs first, then moved on to deprecations, bills, status board, and now at the latest it was the guides. And as we did many of these updates, we got slightly ambitious along the way. We didn't swap it out for the existing features, but when we did it, we introduced a lot of new cool features like API docs and guides were versioned after the migrations, and they weren't versioned before. And many of these pages got a redesign and an uplift while we did these migrations. And all of this is being again done by open source contributors in their personal time. So obviously, it's going to take a lot of time for people to get these stuff done. But the good news is that we did get a lot of parts of the website migrated onto Ember apps. So the only part of the site that still remains is the blog itself and few minor pages like the community pages, the about URLs, the main page itself. So these are the parts that are still yet to be migrated off to an Ember app. And since these most of these pages are all simple static pages without too many features, we thought it would probably be a good time to set it up as one single app and for us to start working on it. Obviously, this screencast is going to be much shorter time for us to like be building anything solid, but it's at least to like get things set up so that people can come in and like claim parts of the site and they can help us in migrating this out to the new infrastructure.
Yeah, the I definitely echo your feeling that this is probably too short a video to actually get anything massive done with this, because just to give people an indication, we've recently released the guides app. So now if you go to guides.emberjs.com, it's an Ember app now serving it. We started that back in November, so it took us almost 7 months of work to make it right, make sure it was ready, and make sure it was, and this is something that you mentioned briefly in the pre-call before we started the video. We made it so that all of the actual pages, the URLs, didn't change. So that's a huge requirement with something like this. For something that's been around since what, 2012, 2013, you can't like rewrite the whole thing from scratch and throw away all of the URLs that are working for people currently in their bookmark systems or links into the site. We have to be very careful. So it's not as simple as just starting a brand new web page. We have to be very careful in what we're doing. And some of them are a bit strange. Like if you look at the blogs, the way that they're kind of laid out is they've got the years as part of the URL. Oh, and they've got .html. I wonder if that's going to be an issue.
Uh,
That's going to be fun. But yeah, there's
right.
some challenges ahead.
So yeah, these are definitely some of the constraints that we had to work through while we did the other apps. And there's a talk that Tom gave about URLs being like the address of the web, maybe 3 years ago, 4 years ago. And it kind of goes into showing how you could land on a specific document on the internet by just having its URL, and how the era of single page apps kind of broke that experience. Because on most websites these days, you're just having the domain name and that's kind of it. You can't bookmark it, you can't reload it. You're gonna get out of control if you do any of those things. And that's how a lot of people are breaking the internet these days. And but like that's something we don't want to do on the Ember apps that we build. And that's again something we want to make sure we honor on the main websites as well. And while we built a lot of these websites, a fun thing to kind of recollect is that Fastboot, Prember, all of these technologies kind of came out as we were building these. So we were new to it. Like we aren't like most of us on the learning team, we don't contribute to like the core framework code itself. We do tend to help out on it from time to time. We do contribute towards it, but not as much as the core contributors do. So we are first class users ourselves. So we kind of pick these technologies and add-ons up as we build these websites also. So if there is if there is a requirement that we haven't thought of in the community while we build these apps, we have passed it along from our team to the teams that own those features, so that they think about those as well. So that's kind of a nice way to think about these projects. So if you're like into Ember but you haven't had like the chance to work on like a challenging constraint filled setup, which might sound like a hard thing, but it's really fun when you set out to it. And like we do just concentrate on evergreen browsers. So like all those facts considered, like it's actually quite some fun to work on these stuff and to kind of learn along the way. So I'm just hoping that like people will just jump on this, because it's probably not going to take more than a month or two for us to just like close out on this and have the entire website be an Ember app.
Yeah, this one won't take as long as the guides did, or I can only imagine how long the API docs took to Emberify. I suppose
That's a
it's
couple of years.
a couple of years. Yeah, the
It's had to go through so many architectural changes.
well, that's the thing. It's still being actively worked on, and there's lots of things that still need to be done on that side. So it's like it's one of those true applications that needs to be constantly worked on. It's never done. It can always be improved. With something like this and maybe the guides, like yeah, there's some improvements that we can do to it. But once it's working and it's an Ember app and we have some of the fun features with it, there's not much else we need to do, if that makes sense. It's like the main design requirement that I was trying to keep in mind for the guides app was to get it so that it was much easier for people in the Ember community to contribute to. And having it as an Ember app seems sensible to do that. And
Mm-hmm.
it's worked. Like I don't know, I haven't necessarily been keeping track of the contributions to the guides before we did the guides app, but I feel like there's been a deluge of people contributing since we've released the new version. It's been non-stop.
Yeah, people just wanna get like, what I've seen is if you make the barrier of entry to be really low to contribute to something, people will usually jump on it. They tend to shy away when they think that they need to be experts to do stuff. and I think we've been doing a better job at it in the last year or so, in at least with the work that we've been doing on the learning team side, and with other teams as well. Like we've been very welcoming, and we try to reach out to people through times and other sources. And I think we could definitely get better at it, but I think we one of the reasons why it's starting to get better is because Jen and so many others through meetups and conferences have been getting a bunch of new contributors into the system, and we've been guiding them along the way. And I think these are the ways that we'd have to like follow to get more people in, and not build like walls
Yeah,
or like big very fancy tech that could make people shy away from it. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why we have a very low contribution rate to the main website itself, because it's a middleman website and people have trouble running it on Windows with Ruby setup. And like I had that trouble too when I started. So I think it will probably be better once we migrate it.
yeah, it would be pretty awesome when we can just, get clone npm install and npm start, and boom, you've got the Ember website. That would be pretty
Uh,
sweet.
yeah.
Right. Okay. So, do we want to get started? Do we want to? I think you wanted us to start up with a skeleton and then maybe set up some of the CI stuff. Um,
Uh-huh.
um, I think I've got a special Ember folder. Yeah, I do too many open source things. I've got so many things cloned on my machine. Um,
Mhm.
what am I gonna do? I'm gonna do.
Oh, should I do it from mine? Because like I have to probably create the repo as well.
Your call. I can swap over to sharing your screen if that helps.
Maybe I could just set it up and you could clone it, so
We could
that
do
like
that
we
too.
can set up.
Yeah, that would be a good idea. Um, I'll let you do that now, and I'll give people an indication of what we've been doing recently while you're doing that. So, Ember Learn. So, I don't know if many people kind of are aware of this, but we've recently been doing a lot of work in the Ember Learning uh, GitHub repo, GitHub org. And this is where the new Guides app actually lives. The Guides app and the new Guides source, which is this is essentially the Markdown folders for what actually powers the actual Guides app. We've got the deprecation app in here. I think we should have the builds app might be in here as well. Builds app
Do
is in.
do we want to show how we set these things up as well?
So the actual how you do it from the GitHub side of things.
Yeah,
Sure. Do you want me to swap over to your screen?
yeah, yeah. Let me start sharing again.
Okay. Other bits and screen. And cool. Right. I am recording your screen now. Oh, I didn't know you could do no welcome. That's cool. I didn't have your audio recording there for a second, but you're back on now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I usually try to add the no welcome flag so that I can avoid those couple of commits to remove it.
Yeah, that's interesting because I always found it interesting that we've got what's the name of the contributor when you do that first commit? It's like Ember, the Ember app or Ember committer. I wonder
Oh,
if
the
the Tomster, yes. I wonder if we could get stats on GitHub of how prolific the Tumster is, because it's going to be the first commit on so many Ember-based apps, which would be
You could
interesting.
probably just search for like this email and you'd probably get it.
Oh, that'd be good.
So let's just add the remote. Push this.
Cool. So you've already created the website. Cool. Awesome. Nice.
So
I'm going to
this
clone that on my side.
if CA is set up, the CA isn't set up yet.
Do you have it as one of those? What is it? The new system where it like isn't a GitHub app where it auto installs itself?
That is like, as far as I tried it out, it's not like very like it doesn't work like all the time. It has like a bunch of things I think that is still working through.
Yeah, well, it is beta, I think.
Yeah, like sometimes we do try out like new stuff, but then again, sometimes it's better to just wait for it.
Yeah, very much so.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah, so just to give people a bit of an indication here, so Siva is our DevOps hero, and has all of the permissions for all of the bits and pieces that we need for Ember repos and deployment and Travis and whatnot. So it's very much better that Siva is doing this than I would be trying to poke around, because it would be every 5 minutes to be like, oh, Siva, can you do this for me?
So what he really means is that if the website goes down, it's probably because of something I did.
Oh, yeah. We've all been there. I think I brought the guides down for an hour while we were doing the swap over, while you were
Uh-huh.
asleep, and I was like, oh no, swap back. Wait until Siva's up. He will save us.
So like Dependabot is like one new
Yeah, I
like
haven't seen this one.
maybe trying. So it kind of helps us in like managing dependencies. Like usually I do prefer sticking to Ember CLI update for the website updates, for like the app updates, but there are like other third-party plugins that we usually don't like, that we may not update through CLI, that we manually update. So for those, probably this is like a good deal. And we do have this one cool project called Style Guide.
Mm.
So the Style Guide itself, for people who haven't seen it so far, is our add-on to share common components and styles across the Ember website apps. So one of few of the things that we kind of covered so far are the header and the footer, and a lot of the typography that goes into the websites themselves. So this is actually published to npm right now. So every time we make an update here, if we have Dependabot enabled on it, all the other websites, it's just going to raise a PR for the newer version that just got released. And if all the tests pass, then you can just go ahead and just merge it from the UI, which is again the reason why you should be writing more tests in your apps, to make sure you can just use cool stuff like this. So now that we have it bumping live, it should start pouring in with pull requests for anything that's outdated in a bit. And there's quite a bunch of nice functionality in Dependabot, where we could just use replace to make it stop doing stuff. Let me quickly just show you.
Yeah, there's been a lot. My notifications on GitHub have been entirely exploding recently since you've added this. Because I guess when we started the guides app, I was very much like, let's get it released with the versions that we had, so that we could worry about the deployment side of it separately to getting it up to date. But then now that it's released, it's been like, open the floodgates, get everything up to date, so that guides app is, it's an example of a fully up to date Ember 3.1 application in production, using all of these nifty things like Prember or whatever, and all of the
Yeah.
dependencies like what you're showing here, completely up
Mhm.
to date.
Right.
Broccoli
Yeah,
merge
that's
trees.
that's kind of nice way to go about it. So
Yeah.
yeah, like you like on dependent, but you could just like respond to it from here through comments, and it will actually start following whatever you ask it to do. And it's quite intelligent about rebasing stuff as new releases come about. It's not too chatty like Greenkeeper is,
Hmm.
and like having used both, I think like I'm really falling for Dependabot more now.
Well, it's
And
interesting because there's some kind of complementary things here as well. Like you're saying that, oh, you look at it, it comes in, you just merge it based on if it passes tests. I don't know if you
uh,
can expand some of the tests that actually ran on this one. Um,
well, we could.
I think it's on the X. It actually looks like it failed a test. But one of the things that I was going to point
Oh,
out
yeah,
is
that
that we have
so
Percy.
let me see if I could get into conversation.
I think if
Yeah.
you, there we go, that's the one. So one of the things here is that, okay, maybe it didn't actually finish processing the things, but especially when you've got something like Style Guide, which is specifically designed to keep the look and feel of the application up to date. If you're updating the Style Guide, you're expecting the there to be visual changes, but it may change. Like one of the things that Percy kind of talks about, and I'll let you go to their website to see their marketing material about this. But there we go. This is perfect. There are 102 pages on the guides app that haven't changed when you've updated broccoli merge trees. Now that's completely expected. But if you updated Style Guide, you'd expect one or two things to change, and then you'd have to manually um, verify them. Wow, that's interesting. There's so many no changes.
Yeah, like here's a sample of what it looks like. These pages didn't exist
I
at this
think
particular.
I think this one was a bug where it stopped rendering some of the pages. And
Okay.
but this is a perfect example. It's like, oh, this is telling me now that you've deleted this page. And it's like, oh, no, it didn't. This is a very important page. We shouldn't have deleted it. We shouldn't have removed all content from it. So something went wrong with the build. So you get, with all of these tools, you get a feeling of whether or not it's safe to upgrade without having to maybe download it and run it locally so that you can push the merge button.
Yeah, the small things just lead up to a lot of like just removes a lot of pain. Like here's like one page where like the URL itself is the same, like the URL that it tests against is the same, but the content itself between those two URLs before and after has actually changed. Like the content of this page is totally different,
If you actually
and
click
that's
on that right hand side, you'll see what the change here was. It
right.
it was confusing all pages for what it should have been on the left hand side. So see, web development was being confused for installing Ember. So it's like it's on
Uh-huh.
the wrong page. You know what I mean? So this is the sort of thing where actually, if somebody went to the slash getting started slash index HTML and then saw web development, that's the wrong page. So it actually showed you like a very useful feedback in this test.
Hmm. Yeah. So yeah, just all these nice tools to kind of keep us from going insane.
Yeah, because there's so much to keep up to.
Oh yeah. So
So
now that already have the repo set up with Travis and Dependabot. Probably we could set up Percy later.
Oh yeah, well, once we actually get something something working, will I start doing this on my side just because it's slightly easier to record, and then I can share stuff
Yeah,
with you. Do you
yeah.
have? Oh yeah, well, hold on. I'll swap back over first. Transition. Then I can do this thing. Transition. There we go. Haha. Studio mode. Yeah, I'm learning how to use this screen recording stuff. It's pretty fun. So, did you do this with Yarn? So I have to. How do you Yarn install? You just do Yarn?
Yeah.
I tend to kind of lean on the npm stuff. But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Do you have Atom installed out of interest?
I'm sorry, Atom.
Atom.
I personally haven't, like, I tried Atom before, but I haven't been a huge fan of it.
Well, the reason I was asking is because when we tend to do this thing, we do that like, I think it's called teletype, the sharing code, so you can start coding at the same time. I know that.
Uh, I, oh yeah, we Visual Studio Code also has that. I think they call it Live Edit or something. But I think I do have Atom installed though. How does it work? But you'd probably have to guide me through it.
I will guide you through it. Don't worry. And it's interesting because this will show other people if they were interested in doing the same sort of thing.
Sure.
It was
But I
mad.
haven't tried it just because it made my Mac get too hard because of all the CPU.
Yeah, it can be a bit heavy sometimes, especially when I'm doing stuff like what I'm doing now with the screen recording or doing any streaming. Your
Mm-hmm.
CPU is usually quite limited. Okay, so if you have Atom open, you probably, if you haven't opened it in a while, you probably have a little squirrel, a blue squirrel in the bottom right saying, please update me.
I'm just downloading it again because I just didn't have it.
Nice. So then, oh, I'm not sharing my screen with you, so let me go back and resume presenting.
I could see it through the Meet though.
Oh yes. Okay. So the thing that you need to install once you do get Atom downloaded is a thing called Teletype packages.
Mm-hmm.
Teletype, and that's the one that you essentially share your session with people, which is pretty cool. Excuse me.
I've done team up sharing screens before, but I still haven't tried out VS Code Live Share or this.
Oh, I had such a good experience with this one when I was hacking with Robert Jackson and Matthew Beale. We were
Mm-hmm.
working on something module unification related, and
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, I'll share my screen and the meet, and then I'll just share my session with Robert because he wanted to do some stuff. But I was like, oh, what happens if you add more people? And apparently, I don't know what the limit is, but you can have it's not just one-on-one. You can have like
Mm-hmm.
3 or 4 or 5 people join your session, and they can all be coding at the same time, which is
Wow.
just insane. uh,
So I downloaded it and just searching for the package now.
yeah, so I sent you a link as well. They have their own like app style links, but you can, once you install Teletype, you'll get this little like broadcast icon in the bottom right, and you can do
Mm-hmm.
stuff in here. I think the first thing that you need to do is you need to link it with your GitHub.
Oh, okay.
So it'll, like, once you click the little broadcast icon. Oh, actually, people can't see because I'm in the way. Where am I? Video capture device. There we go. Anybody's watching on the video, It's this little thing here.
So I need to create a token and then.
I think it should give you a link to do that for you on the little.
Yeah.
While you're doing that, I'm going to get this running. Usually like to have that terminal on that side. And I can do.
Yep. And then now.
Aha, you're in. So, and you can see my package JSON.
Yep.
So the way that this works, I don't know if you said you haven't used the Visual Studio one either.
I've seen demos of it. I'm guessing, or it doesn't show you
So you don't get
where.
to you don't get to see the side thing. So this is why it's quite useful to share the screen as well. So it's like, whatever. And then
Mhm.
when I open another file, you get that as a tab on your side.
Okay.
So we can be working on a set of files together, but it's like, oh, if you need a file that we haven't worked on yet, you have to kind of like ask me. I assume it's like a security thing. If I inadvertently asked you to, there you
Mm-hmm.
go, over the network, and we can both be working on the same file at the same time, which is pretty nifty.
Yeah. I saw the Visual Studio Code one show like tooltips, like what Google Docs does. And I think sometimes when you like just come back from like a break or like just switching between windows, that probably like just helps to see where you're at.
Yeah,
But I guess
there's a
I just
thing
get you.
as well on the bottom right. You should probably see my face. I'm gonna.
Oh, okay.
So that's where, if there's a green circle around me, I'm just gonna show other people video capture device. So I don't know if you can see there, but I've got Siva. But
Mm-hmm.
when it's green, that means we're on the same file. But I can push it, and then there's like a little link icon. So that means
Uh-huh.
as you navigate around other files, I follow you. So you're in
Oh,
charge when you're linked. And the other way is true. So if you have me linked, then any file that I open, you'll be able to see. So yeah, I'm linked to you
okay.
now. So you're in control of the session, essentially,
Oh,
which is
okay.
interesting.
That's good.
Yeah, it's a pretty nifty setup, like, especially when you're doing hacking like this.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we want to do this? Do we want to kind of tackle this in the same way that I started the guides app thing, or do we want to do it in a slightly different approach?
What do you can you get in? Can you tell me a little bit of what you mean by how we did it in the guides?
So the guides app, I know we're now a little bit more kind of what's the word, sophisticated. But essentially, what I did with the guides app is I pulled up the. I'm pretty sure I have the website here as well. Actually, let me do that. CD. Do I have a website? I do. I'm also going to git pull. I'm just going to add the website as a project folder here as well. Git stone circle open source. I think that's the right, yeah. And then Ember website. Ooh, no, it is the website I wanted. Open. So what I did when it came to the guides and the old guides that we had I literally. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't take it from the source because I couldn't get the CSS to work properly, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did was I took the CSS from there was like an output repo,
Mm-hmm.
guide, no, github.com, Ember.js. I'm pretty sure there was like a guide
Yeah.
snapshot.
Yeah.
Do we have one of those for the website as well?
No, the website is just directly deployed.
Directly deployed. Okay, so that's one side of things. I did that, and then I also took the CSS from the snapshot, so that it was like just copying and pasting that CSS into the app, and then over time turned it more into like Sass or whatever, so it was properly partitioned. And then
Mm-hmm.
I took the ERBs, whatever they may be.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, I assume there's going to be some sort of like index or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
or it's probably layout is probably the default one. I copied and pasted the contents of the body
Uh-huh.
and used that as the um, as the handlebars template, and then commented out all these weird whatever they may be,
Mm-hmm.
and essentially converted them into the handlebars equivalents of what they're trying to do. So like sidebar or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's kind of probably the way to go. But I think to some extent we can a little bit differently this time.
Okay.
Uh, because usually what I see when we do projects like this is that when like for the sake of maintaining like being up to date, like one to one with the existing site, we when we copy stuff over, we end up bringing in a lot of technical debt along with it.
Mm-hmm.
So in that sense, Mel has done an excellent job of like maintaining the styles, ported over the styles over to the style guide. So
Okay.
probably since this is going to be the very last project that you're working on, it might be helpful to try starting out with a guide, style guide. Like we could try integrating the style guide, then add like try moving out pages, and as we see CSS issues, I think we can pick the styles up from the site and then move it on into the style guide itself or into the
Perfect.
website's CSS as we need it.
So we skip that first step of taking the compiled CSS or whatever it is, so that we don't have to like put it this way. That's I'm very happy that you said that, because one of the main pains that we had on the guide side was figuring out the slight differences and where to fix things. Because essentially we threw away all this Sass compiling that was happening for the old guides because we couldn't get it to work with whatever versions of, I think it was using Bourbon and Neat and all these
Uh,
sorts of things, and
right.
there just wasn't a version set that worked perfectly with the new build system. So it was not fun.
Yeah, that's fun.
So we're now in
So
Ember Learn. Is it still Ember Style Guide STYLE?
it's slightly different now, but maybe even before we get into like installing the style guide, maybe we could just like lay out the routes. Like we could just set like create the routes and like the route hierarchy for people to like start coming in and like to add stuff.
Oakley dokley. Let's do that. Let's do it with generators.
Mhm.
Do we want to do that off just like looking at the production website and then going from there, or do we want? Is there a way for us to interpret what the roots are with the old middleman way of doing
If
it?
so, yeah. If you just if you could run the like middleman website on your local.
Sure thing. Uh, the website, it's a Docker thing, isn't it?
You could just do you have bundler on your machine? You can just run bundle exec middleman.
So I see this thing. It's saying
Uh,
I don't have the right Ruby.
it's a little picky, but I think it should be fine. Just why don't you just print out your Ruby version, Ruby minus V?
Ooh, I'm not a Rubyist, you see. Oh, so that should be fine.
This should be fine. Try bundle first, bundle. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was fortunate, I suppose, to have never needed to learn kind of Ruby stuff. It's kind of a double-edged sword where I haven't had to deal with any bundle or anything like this. I've been JavaScript all the way, Ember in the front end, Node in the back end. But yeah, it's sometimes hard to jump into a team that's using a lot of Ruby and then figuring out what's going on.
All the work that I've ever done with like Ruby and Ruby tools is when I've been involved with the Ember community. So
That's interesting.
I'm happy that like we're moving more and more away from those things now, because like in the very beginning on in the AppKit days, like literally every website that we had was on middlemen, and like you needed to know Ruby to like poke around things.
Interesting.
Yeah, this is probably going to take a couple of minutes,
I
but
think I think I might have already done the Docker stuff. Let me just double check real quick while it's here. While it's doing something. Docker compose up build. Huh. That's it. That's the thing we need to figure. Building guides.
oh, that's good.
Yeah, because I had
Does
already
it?
run it, you see.
Hmm. So when middleman actually runs on a local, it has like a hidden URL for us to view the website configurations.
Oh,
It, that comes along with the sitemap as well. So we could just use that to look at all the URL paths.
so that's in when we're running it,
Yeah.
not in the. That's interesting. We could always. Look, I'm not a super expert in Docker, but you can always like boot into the Docker machine.
No, it's just through the web interface.
Oh,
So
really?
like
Okay,
as
I
long,
didn't know that. Cool. That sounds interesting. It's like a Ember uh, inspector for the middleman, because we'll be able to do that once we get Ember working here. We can set up all the routes and stuff. We will be able to see the routes at least. Oh, my poor machine. This is like with a lot of this recording and streaming and stuff. I'm like, now I can justify getting a really expensive new machine. But nah,
this is
I can't.
literally what like almost all developers do all day, just sit around waiting for stuff to finish out.
Yeah, that always reminds me of the XKCD. Why are you
Oh
messing?
yeah, really.
Compiling. Yeah, we got away from that. There was a few years in the middle there where we didn't have that issue. It was just like, oh, you're using JavaScript straight in the website. But nah.
Yeah. Especially after you work on front end, where like you make a change and library loads right away, like you lose the patience to wait on stuff to take time to finish up.
Yeah, I was originally a C++ programmer, so I don't know if it's like foundational with me. It's like I've got the patience, I can wait. But yeah, like
Yeah.
some of my early stuff was actually working on KDE, and
Mm-hmm.
oh my god, I spent so much time figuring out how to like cluster compile C++ on every machine I had in the house, because to build anything you had to build the whole KDE library and all this sort of stuff. And it was like,
Mm-hmm.
it was just insane.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Few years ago, a coworker had to build Chrome on Android, and back then it used to take about like 20 hours to just build the whole damn thing after like a few changes that you do.
That's insane.
Yeah. Oh,
Ooh,
finally.
why is it saying guides one now?
You probably just named the like they probably gave a default name to the container as guides.
Oh, because this will be like a sub. This is like a
Uh-huh.
subsection of the website.
Yeah, like
Uh,
the compose container would have probably mentioned that as guides. Yep, we're in line three.
all right. Okay. Guides, build, context, Docker file. So this is just from Ember.js website dev. So it's just it must be a copy and paste thing then, I assume.
Mm.
Like it's not suggesting that the guides are being actually built as part of this.
Mm. They just named the container as guides. Like you
Interesting.
can name it whatever you like.
Just gonna check. It should usually spit out that it's actually doing something, right? I assume it hasn't finished loading.
It's probably still coming up.
I'm just checking. Yeah, poor computer. OBS is a real um, hog of resources.
Hmm.
I can cut this bit out of the video
Yeah,
and just be like intermission.
you could just probably speed it up.
Do
Like
the what was it?
like the last. I'm sorry.
Do you know the joke from SpongeBob SquarePants? The 7 hours later.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I you like when I do videos of like screen shares, I just fast forward the npm install parts, and I finally just leave in a comment which says it actually took 10 minutes, but I'm just fast forwarding it. But I wish npm installs were so quick.
Yeah, for any recordings and stuff. Ooh, it worked.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
so
if you could click on the second URL, the
this one
underscore
here.
underscore one, yeah.
Oh, thank you, computer. You put it in the wrong place. What's that?
Uh-huh.
Ooh, this is cool. What is this?
Yeah. If you click on sitemap,
Can't believe I didn't know about this. This is amazing.
yeah.
Okay, so I assume we can. Right. Okay.
So this has to be our these have to be our URL paths for our app.
Uh, and we are back after the break. Um, so I think the last thing that we did before the break was you showed me this whole middleman sitemap thing, which is
Mhm.
which is pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie, this is pretty interesting. Um, I don't really know what I'm looking at, and I think I asked a question is why the builds and the guides app are in here as well, but maybe I just ignore that for now. um,
So the builds app does need to be modified a little now, because I think builds was one of those apps where we didn't spend a lot of time thinking it through. What it does right now is that builds the actual builds app on the Ember Learn org,
mhm.
builds out the content of the page, and the middleman website actually loads that Ember app inside the builds URL on these different like it embeds the Ember app inside these pages again.
Oh, interesting. So it's like taking the. I'm not saying that this is what it's doing, but I have a slightly different conceptual model, I think, to this. But if I'm thinking of it like a prembird output, you're essentially putting the prembird output into what middleman would kind of pick up. Would that sound right?
Kind of, yeah.
Kind of. Okay, close enough.
Yeah, it's not accurate, but it's close.
Yeah, I always like to kind of hark back to this. What is it they say in mathematics about models don't need to be right; they need to be useful.
Uh-huh.
So it's like you can
Yeah.
never have a model that's right because the model is not the real thing out there. But if it's useful, work with it. You know.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's close that because that seems a bit scary, and it
Uh-huh.
needs to be there. But am I right in saying that the guides bit doesn't necessarily need to be there anymore?
So those are the older guides, and we kept it there because we initially had some URLs that were being rewritten to the new guides. So these are actually proper URLs into the app.
So
But like if you go to it, it will redirect you to like the actual guides, the new guides. So if you go to it, it'll redirect. It'll just rewrite it and
redirect
redirect.
into what's
So we don't need that anymore. I already have a PR for it that we were waiting on to merge
cool,
for the guide after the guides went live, and I think I'll merge it today,
awesome.
and that folder will go away.
You heard it here first, folks. Awesome. Okay, so that one is going to go away. So some of the other things that we've got in here, uh, I think you were saying something community. So this makes
Uh-huh.
sense to me because I know that we've got, let's go back, Ember.js.com. I know that we've got a community section. I don't know what the getting started bit is.
If
Meetups.
you open up the URL as well, it'll actually give you a path to the website also.
If I do this thing?
Yeah.
Oh. If I assume this is now running on my local machine though.
Um,
Oh. This is cool.
so these are the actual pages that we'd have to fill in.
And this is the one that I know about. Haha, of
They,
course that's not going to work
uh-huh.
with yeah, I think Google Maps. I assume that's Google Maps, but I think Google Maps has issues with running on a different domain to what it was expecting. Oh, community.
I thought it was right.
Oh, sorry, it was meetups that I was looking at.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I don't think it works locally because it's set to being
Oh yeah.
you're using
Uh-huh.
an API key and stuff. I know there's issues with that, but anyway.
Okay.
So I'm confused actually. Community
Mhm.
meetups, but where's community itself?
We don't have a direct we don't group it by any menu item called community.
Oh, it's this one
Uh,
here.
I don't know if we have a top level menu item for that though. Like if you go back,
So in here.
uh-huh.
So
Oh
this
yeah, we do.
so this is that, and then meetups. We don't have a menu item for the getting started thing.
So
Uh,
yeah, like there are a few bunch of older URLs that like don't come in like that they don't match as is with the website navigation because we have tweaked the website navigation a bit in the recent months.
mm,
So like it's just good to know all those URLs exist and for us to keep
yeah.
like a mapping of it. But that's all the purpose that they serve, like for us to just know about them.
Well, this is our to-do list right here. This is like
Yep.
we need to make sure that each one of these actually does what is expected. Because, as I said earlier on, we don't want to break links, because it's super important, especially if anybody's thinking about SEO, you know, SEO regards, which I know we've been doing a lot of stuff recently. It's very important to make sure that everything's working as expected that way. Okay, cool. So community seems like a good example for us to get started on, as you were saying, building the router. Will I do it as a generator, or should I just go straight into the router and let's do it in there?
Could you dock the browser along with the terminal side by side?
I think so. Do I do this thing? Ooh.
Yeah.
And then I probably need to stop doing this. Oh, this is funky. I hardly ever do this. I feel like a pro.
Yeah, let's just stick to the generator because I don't trust myself that much.
Okay, so we want to do a community root, community. I'm a terrible speller, so I always have to double check. I can never remember once this does generate, if we want to do community meetups, what's the syntax? Is it dot syntax or is it
You mean
slash?
with the route that you create?
So
it's just slash. Yeah.
Slash. So this will meetups. So this will do as expected then.
Probably need an index as well.
So a community index. I literally never do that. I always just make the index file manually, but it makes. I'd be interested to see. Obviously, people have thought about this. Smarter people than I have thought about this. Installing roots community meetups. So it doesn't need to create. Oh, it did create an index in the router. That's curious. Or at least it's saying it's doing something. It didn't. It just told us it was. Cool. This looks good. And then what's the last one? It's going to be meetups getting started .html. Right. Okay, so we've got a bunch of roots.
Yep. Maybe we could circle through a few more routes
Sure.
so that we can just
will we ignore the blog for now because that's a little bit mad?
Yeah, we could just cover blog the next time around.
Yeah.
We could ignore builds as well. Probably it's better for us to change the website setup so that builds loads the entire header, footer, like what guides and deprecation app does.
Oh, so it's
completely proxy to the Ember app instead of loading it internally.
Oh wait, so it takes this and spits it out in the layout in the middleman.
Yep.
Oh.
That's why I said it was
close enough. Yeah. Oh, that seems scary. Yeah, I would be very, very in favor of having it being its own kind of thing, because I could only imagine the pain that you would have gone through to do that.
So we could skip the community survey ones for now, and
sure.
Let's go to learn.
So we can fonts will be
Those
nothing to
are
do with these
static
guides. We don't need images static. Learn. This is the next one. So this is interesting.
There's a learn. There is a we'll need maybe you can start with the learn/index.
So this is interesting. That must do two things for us then. Oh, that's cool. And then we want learn examples. Didn't know we even had an examples route.
Yeah, that's the one where we showcase apps.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay. Security.
So it looks like we just need one top level route for security, and that's it.
Because the public key's going to be probably in public or whatever.
Yeah.
Route.
No, just security.
Just security. Because then we don't need it in a route or whatever. Yeah, it's interesting. Security style sheets again is going to be static.
Yes. Maybe we could come down from the bottom now, like just to cover the simple pages.
Okay.
Like sponsors.
What is template.rb? I assume that shouldn't be being spat out.
Yeah, I think it's just a middleman thing that it shows up here.
Okay. Okay, Ember.js route. Can you generate multiple routes at once?
No, I don't think the brace expansion. I don't know if it works. Why don't you give it a try?
Oh, I was just gonna go spawn.
Oh, okay. I don't know if it would work though. I'd assume it had considered it as an argument. Yeah.
So it just ignored the last one. So what were you saying about brace expansion? What was that? That's this thing, is it? Oh, I should have done that. This way. Oh, damn it. This way. Need a pass it. And then is it like commas or something?
I'm sorry?
Is this how you do that?
Yeah. I don't think they support it though. Oh, it does.
But it ignored the second one again.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think that has more to do with the shell than anything else. I think we've gone too far into too many commands without staging anything. So maybe.
So you want me to kind of do something Git related?
Let's do Git add. We could probably do it from the command line too.
Do the add p. Does this look right to you? Will I make that a bit bigger? That looks right to me. I don't see any spelling mistakes. Of course, all the other ones are just files being added, so they should be fine. I assume we want to keep all the empty tests in there, even though they're not really doing anything.
We could delete it later if we don't want them.
Tests. Status. Seems sensible to me. Yeah. Oh, do we want to do this on a branch, or are you happy for me to put this on master?
It's fine.
Do I have push commands? Push.
I'll give you access when we get to the end of it.
Cool. Git status. Right. So will we keep going? Or are you doing that access now?
I'll work on the access as you go through the other ones so that we can just push it.
What am I doing? Ember.js route. What was the last one we generated? Mascots. Logos is a route. That's all right. already created learn did guidelines.
Might want to add one for the like the home index as well, like the index page for the home page.
Oh, did we need to do that independently? Is that going to create us an index template then? Template.hps?
Yeah.
Cool.
Like it's not going to do anything with the router, but it's just going to create those files for us.
Cool, that's fine. So we have the Ember users, edge template documentation. I assume that's an actual real root. Did we create community already? We did. Community about. I don't think we created an about. Right. Oakley dokley.
Yeah, I think so probably it's just the Tomster and Zoe ones that are left.
I think so too. But that Zoe looks like just a basic one.
Why don't you just open it? Like, let's just see what that page is.
This
I
page.
don't know.
If I do this, I go to Zoe. Oh, it's because it's a redirect to mascots.
Yeah, that this is probably something that we'll have to do as well. Like have a URL for Zoe, but like a route for Zoe, but that should just redirect to mascots.
That will be a static thing, won't it?
No, it would probably just have to be like within the app.
Okay. Or both. So I'll generate it. Zoe. Oh, Z and OEY. Good.
So, like one of the things that I was thinking of was that for anything except for proxying, like any redirects, except for like proxying stuff, I think we should try to stay away from the build pack itself, because it's probably like if we tend to rely more and more on the build pack, then it just makes it harder to test it out in local.
Well, yeah, I suppose it's something that we can kind of discuss and maybe bring it out to the community or whatever. But one of the things that I'm kind of very conscious of at the moment, and especially when it's the landing pages, is that the redirects ought to be a 301 permanent redirect. Whereas I think if we do it in the fastboot server style thing, it comes back as a 307, which I have no idea what a 307 even is. And I don't want to confuse crawlers. That's the last thing I want to do. But we can.
I'm sure we could. So like when we did API docs, I think we did manage to change it to a 301. I think there is there are like ways in fastboot to like mention what code we want to use. But if that's something that we encounter, I think that's something we should bring up with fastboot team
Oh, that's
and like
interesting.
work on.
Yeah.
Because like most of the time this is how like people end up hiding their problems away from the community, because like they get busy in the the like they're just so focused on the work that they don't report back, and we think people are happy about it.
Mm.
So it's probably like better to just like battle it through and see if something could be done about it.
This one looks interesting. So it'd be something that we'll have to change. But the commission is a form, and
Uh-huh.
then commission sent, I am assuming, is a thanks for sending us that form. We'll get back to you.
Pro-
So that'll be something that needs. There, thanks so much. We'll back to you shortly.
uh,
That's funny. So that'll be Ember G root Tom Stir. Did I spell that right? Commission. Okay. I think this is the last folder anyway, so we're almost done.
Okay.
Should do it. Fuck. There's a company that my dad worked for before the first .com crash.
Mm-hmm.
That was called CFAX, which was a company entirely built on creating FAQs, or already did index. And I was like, it was back when, before like everybody had the websites and stuff like that, and it was like how to build FAQs for Windows or something strange like that.
Uh-huh.
Payment. This is interesting. I'm assuming payment is something to do with commission.
That's the payment one is probably for
Or
I think
donations.
it's I think so. Like when you try to sponsor it, like sponsor us. Oh yeah, no. Okay,
This is cool.
interesting.
Yeah, I think maybe we won't create that one because it'll probably be some sort of something through here.
Uh-huh.
And we'll have to, there's like a giant question mark as to how that is even going to work. So let's not create that. We'll make sure we create an
Maybe
issue.
just add it for like just for the sake of covering it, and we can like always quest it out and like look through it in a little bit more detail later.
Do you want me on the same breath to do the payment sent and the commission sent ones?
So I didn't quite get that.
So we're creating the payment one just so that it's there, so it's added and it's caught by what we're doing today. But should I create the payment sent HTML as well as the commission sent?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do those two. Payment sent.
I think the first one might be just about like inquiring about it, and the second one is where they actually make you pay for it.
Oh, so it's
But
like it's been accepted or whatever.
yeah, we could check with Lay on that one when we actually
Yeah,
get
cool.
to implementing it.
Cool. So it looks like we've got everything now. Git add p logos, legal guidelines, Ember users, documentation, about Zoe, Tomster, commission, FAQ, payment sent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There'd probably be payment index and payment sent if we were to do something like that, but
That's fine.
not too important. Git status. Git.
Yeah, you could always like have it that way, but just change the paths so that the paths are satisfied, but like we do it the Ember way later.
Sure. Oh, I see what you mean. So that makes sure that it's got the hyphens and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'd imagine that those ones are probably ignored anyway, so we probably don't need to worry too much about payment sent or whatever. Oh well.
I don't think so. Like we let it crawl through.
Anyway, Okay, cool. So commit a message with, what am I doing? I am adding the last set of, that's all of the roots.
Let's just add a one for blog/index for now, just so that we claim that route.
Yeah, just in case we get any squatters.
Yeah.
Ember.js root blog index.
And maybe once we commit this particular like output, let's just maybe do another commit where we sort the routes in the router.
I was thinking that myself. Ooh.
Yeah, I think it has to do with OCD, I guess.
I have a oh, it's apparator. Yeah. Adding place for blog roots. And then what I tend to do is I have a thing in my Atom, which is a sorter.
Uh-huh.
But it doesn't play nicely with these like nested ones. So you have to kind of you have to wrangle it a little bit. Meetups getting started. Sort, and it also means that I don't have to be the one deciding what the sort order is.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
I guess everybody has this these days.
Wrong things. Bump, bump. Tomster. Learn comes before legal. And ABC. Nice. Perfect. And that's fine. Okay, so do you want me to push this now?
Yeah.
I have permission. Cool, awesome. So, do we want to leave that there today, or was there anything else that you wanted to do? Although we've hit our half an hour that we wanted after the break.
We could probably stop here because like there are a bunch of other stuff that I had to cover today. We could probably just resume the video tomorrow, like so that it's like one long video.
Cool.
And